For years and years and years, I made my tracks and I didn't follow the principles of gain staging, the temp master, the reference to get my track to that point. As soon as I learned that style of working, the penny dropped for me and I understood music, and I feel this is the best advice I could give someone. When I started out, I was really into ToolRoom, and I sent them demos for 6 years before they even said yes. Literally six years, and it took that long to get onto that label. Before, I used to make a different style of music under my own name. So I was making music for 5 years before the Leftwing Kody project came about, and ToolRoom was a big label that I was trying to get on. You know, I was pestering Mark, pestering Pete, and we laugh about it now, you know. Our first big break as Leftwing Kody was a track that we produced that came out on Off Recordings. The track was called You Were. It's kind of at the era when Deep House was really blowing up and that kind of garage tinge sound come in. And Chris and I, both being from that garage scene, like naturally progressed into making this kind of amalgamation of garage tinned Deep House. And after that track came out, it was very well received, played by a lot of DJs. It went to, I think, #2 on Beatport, so that feat itself was kind of mind-blowing. Bookings started to come in, and it got to the point where I thought about leaving my job. The more bookings came in, the more I thought about it, and eventually I just bit the bullet and left my job. And it's been 6 years since then, you know, I haven't looked back. So that initial big break was enough for me to have the confidence to believe in myself and believe that I could have a career in music. And you know, 6 years later, I'm still here. ToolRoom was one of those labels that we always aspired to be. I said before, we sent Mark and Pete tracks for 5 to 6 years before we even got on the label. So I think our first release was about 5 years ago, and it's grown from there. Since then, we've been on a lot of comps. We had our first official EP out with them this year. We've got something coming out with them next year. I recently moved to Maidstone and I was studio-less, and Mark kindly enough said I can use his studio. So I've had such a touch using his studio in the week when I've got nowhere else to go. And it's kind of built from that. We're at this place where we're working together a lot on a lot of different things, a lot of different projects. Me and Mark have done a collab that we're looking to finish off soon. So it's over the years we've grown, you know, kind of grown together. Everyone's pretty sweet here. Production takes hours and hours and hours. When I started, I was doing 4 hours an evening and the whole weekend, 12 hours each day in the weekend. I was probably doing about 50 hours a week. I can't stress enough how much time you need to put in to get this to work, how much sacrifice you need to put in. It's about not doing that thing, you know, with someone and sitting in the studio and putting the time in. I think that is a big piece of advice that a lot of people kind of miss, putting the time in. One bit of advice I'd probably give myself is, if I was younger, I would have loved to start younger. I would have loved to learn the piano at a younger age and stuff like that, because pianos and scales and stuff like that, you don't necessarily need to know it, but it makes your life a lot easier. So I wish I had learnt music theory at a younger age, because now in my 30s I'm spending a lot of time learning it again, you know, and you haven't got as much as time as you do as when you're younger. So if you're at 18, 19, even 17, start tinkering with the piano, because, you know, if you want to do this as a career, not even DJing, production, if you want to be a musician and move on, you need to play an instrument. I think the first mistake people make with the tracks is sound selection. It's a major thing. You choose the wrong sounds, you're gonna go down the wrong road. It also, choosing the right sounds will just make your life a lot easier in the stages of the mixing, mastering stage. You don't have to work so hard to get those sounds sitting in the mix. So that would be number one. Number two would be over pushing your master. So that is making sure you've got enough headroom for your track to really sound good when you put a master on it. The DAW I use is Logic 9. I do use Logic X, but I prefer 9, so I kind of flicker between the two. I've been using Logic from the start, for 10 years. As opposed to why I use it, I just like the sound of it more. I've tried Ableton and I've tried Cubase, and for me, I feel at home at it. It's not to say it's the best, but for me, it's right, you know, and that's why I use it. What this course is all about is taking your tracks from that kind of rough production stage to a demo and club-worthy track. A track that you could send to a record label they're going to listen to and they want to sign, or that you could play in the club and it's going to work. I'm going to be covering some basic mixing and mastering, gain staging, getting your track to a temp master. It's not going to be a poorly produced track. It's going to be a track that you're going to get to with the best stages possible before mastering. The reason I wanted to do this particular course, I had to think about what kind of subjects I could cover, and being an owner of a record label, I get so many demos. And these demos, they have good ideas, but they're just missing that extra 20%. It's literally this, what I'm talking about. It's taking your track from that rough stage to a more polished stage. You know, I could have covered a lot of other subjects, maybe making a track, but this is a subject I feel that would benefit the most from people. That I feel that they'll be able to get the most from this and they will get results.